This is the third session at this venue, The Ties That Bind Us. We have two speakers and one moderator. The first speaker is Mamang, who is a poet and novelist, a member of Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Commission 2011-17, a former journalist and president of the Arunachal Pradesh Union of Working Journalists. She worked with the Worldwide Fund for Nature in the Eastern Himalaya Biodiversity Hotspots program. Her first book, Arunachal Pradesh, The Hidden Land, featuring the culture and customs of the state's communities, won the State Warrior Elwin Award 2023. A Padma Shri awardee 2011, she received the Sahitya Academy Award 2017 for her novel The Black Hill. Her recent publications include The White Shirts of Summer, Poetry 2023, The Inheritance of Words, Writings from Arunachal Pradesh 2024. Ma'am, may I please request you to take a seat? The second speaker is Salma, who is a poet, novelist, and activist who goes by the pen name Rajati. She's a significant voice in contemporary Tamil literature. Her renowned novel, Irandam Jamangal Kadai, 2004, The Long Hours of the Night, was longlisted for the Man Asia Prize in 2009. Her writing challenges deeply entrenched social and patriarchal norms, particularly within the Tamil Muslim community of her origin. Her poetry collections, Oru Malayam, Inoru Malayam, 2000, and Pachai Devatai, 2003, are celebrated for their inclusive exploration of female experience. Her poetry and fiction have been translated into multiple languages. She was recently nominated to the Rajya Sabha. The moderator is Natasha Ramarathnam, who has worked on various aspects of social and economic development in a career spanning both the corporate and social sector, and for the past few years has been working in an individual capacity to advocate for positive climate action. She frequently contributes articles on social, environmental, and gender-related issues for various publications. A keen reader, she has a monthly column in the USAW Literary Review. She was a part of the Save Banyans of Chevala campaign and is an active volunteer with Warrior Moms. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session with two amazing writers. We are privileged to have both of them here. They're both writers who write across genres, fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and the issues they deal with are issues that concern all of us. Since we've already had the introduction, I will just start out with, just in a few words, how did both of you come to the journey? I mean, you started out as a poet, and now you write more novels, and you are an activist in other ways also. So how did you really get into writing? Could you tell us a little bit, very briefly, about your journey?
Come. Thank you very much for inviting me this program. And when I started poetry, I was very young, in small village, in rural village. We could not get more exposure. Women should not go outside. We could not get education. This is not a religious thing. Only the people practicing that kind of life. Women, they are confined women inside the house. That's why we could not get more exposures, not educated. All the women are same life we had. That time I'm writing myself some literary books, and from library I got more Russian literature and everything. Then I started write my poetry. I'm always getting angry about this community, about the situation, and women, how much they are suffered in this life. Well, emotionally, I wanted write something, started with poetry. After some time, I realized I want to tell the story of women. Stories how much they are living that painful life and without freedom, how much they have desires and they could not get anything, freedom or something. I want start my novels also. Once upon a time, we met at the Frankfurt Book Fair or somewhere 2006, I think. That time, we talk about the poetry. She said, uh, the market also always, poetry collections is very less, but novels always very powerful. There people are getting more interested on the prose and novels. Then I want to write novels. And I continue my novels, 3 novels already published, some novels, not only 1 or 2, 3, 4 novels are already finished, but I have to wait for publish that novels sometime. Yes, I want to write the more painful life of my situation and my women, my community women life.
Yeah, thank you so much. And ma'am, you've also had a very checkered career. You were in the administrative service, you were a journalist, you were a communications professional. How did you really get into writing novels, especially historical novels?
Thank you, Natasha. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to go back a few years, actually it's almost 2 decades when Salma and I traveled together to Frankfurt in 2006. And at that time we were both very new, but we were already on this journey, you know. I had a published novel, The Legends of Pensam. I was a journalist. I started as a journalist, and I found as a journalist sitting in Legislative Assembly and covering news, I was always interested in the story behind the story. You know, people have so many stories, and I could think up a story for each one of our respected, you know, honorables, if I could imagine it. So that was a kind of personal inclination, I suppose, why I wanted to write. And then beyond that, if you get into writing fiction, then fiction is also another kind of truth, because investigative reporting, you can only deal with facts, you know, and it's very immediate. You have to present it to the editor immediately, having corroborated all the facts and evidence. With fiction, you can get to different layers of truth, I suppose, you know, the different layers of a story. So that's how I continued with historical fiction, say. Poetry, of course, is another matter. It's almost inexplicable. It's difficult to explain. But I think at the heart of it, I was always writing poetry.
Thank you. So you mentioned that it was really your anger that started you writing, and most of your novels, including this book, and if you've not read it, I do encourage you to read it. Um, they, even if it is about male protagonists, the women are very strong, and there are ties that bind women, women friendships. And there is a lot in your novels about the oppression which your community faces. So my question is really two. One is, you know, this whole thing that women face, but more, have you really faced any oppression, any opposition from within your community? You know, where people within the community say, why are you writing things about us that we don't want you to write, or other people will misuse it? So if you could tell us a little bit.
Yes, when women speaks something truth, definitely male-dominated society will affect. They don't want to speak women. and we have to very calm and quiet and obediently, peacefully, we have to sit at home. Men always happy about that. When always I'm try to write and expose our life and male dominated society, and the people, they are getting more irritated. They are always scolding me. A lot of criticism happened to my writings. Recently also I got a lot of threaten about my first novel. The novel about you know, women, they are discussing their own life. That is the most of the women character. They are always sitting in some places, at kitchen or some wedding hall. They are telling their story. They are discussing about the sexual desires and everything. When the men gathering one place, they are talking about women. This some women, they are sitting inside the house. They are talking about their own problems and issues. But now Mamang told, no, we have to write truth. No, when I wanted to write this kind of truth and issues and the problems and what kind of problems women are having, how they are suppressed inside the house, I wanted to write everything. But I don't want to lie. But after published my novel, that the community, men, they are criticizing me. I am lying. All the stories are lies. I wrote everything is lie. They wanted threatening me. They wanted to stop me also. But I don't want to stop my writings. I want to continue my fight against this kind of society. The men, they are always doing a lot of things against women. Recently, that nomination of my Rajya Sabha, this novel 15 years before published first novel, that time also I faced a lot of criticism. Again they started. When the nomination day, next day they have started the criticism about my novel, about my character, about that novel is totally false and everything I was written like pornography. This now there it's 600 pages novel. They are only took photos, only 3-4 pages. I wrote about women discuss about the sexual desires. This is the novel she wrote. She is not a Muslim. They're always we have to prove I'm a good Muslim. I'm a Muslim. I have to proof for them. Women always prove to the society, I'm the good woman like that, no. Then that time they criticized my novel, and she is not a representative of the Muslim community. They wanted tell something to the society, and they are requested the chief minister, she is not our representative, you should not give the opportunity to her. But I never spoke against the religion. I always spoke about the women rights, women issues. But this always happening against writers in this society, women writer always happening. But still the problem is there. Why I am not publishing some other novels? Same criticism it will come to me. I have to wait some time for publishing my novels, because this community, they are having a lot of problem now. In India, this Muslim community, we have faced a lot of problems also because of the political things. This time, we have to wait some time to fight against all the issues inside and outside.
And in your, this book is really about the insurgency in Arunachal Pradesh. It's largely a history of Arunachal Pradesh, but in fictional form. And in this book, again, you have mentioned women in politics, the expectations of women in politics. But more than that, the question I really have for you is when you are writing, what is the audience you have in mind? Who are you thinking of when you write a novel? And when they are so meticulously researched, why do you write a historical novel instead of maybe a work of non-fiction? Quite a few questions in one.
Actually, I love research. Maybe it comes from the journalism thing. But I'm just very curious. I go off into research. For example, writing The Black Hill, which was about this French Jesuit priest. It just hit me while I was doing research for the non-fiction book, Arunachal Pradesh, The Hidden Land, that a priest had come up to somewhere near my hometown, actually, as if the story was waiting for me. So I got interested, and it was very difficult to find anything about Father Crick because he was French in British India, and all that our people remembered, the Adi community, were, the Anglo-Boer wars which we had with the British, not this French priest who actually came and left a record in the Kolkata archives. I had to get that. It was translated into English by another father, Father Gilles. So the research went on, then I was getting into the history of Assam and, in that period 200 years ago. So you also have to sort of curb your interest in all sorts of things when you're doing this kind of research. But the most recent one, Escaping the Land, this is based on primary sources, primary being my father, because he was one of the first local officers when Arunachal was not a state, it was a border frontier, and we were actually under the Ministry of External Affairs until the Indo-China, border skirmish. Then people realized that there is this strange place up there in the hills. It needs to be administered. Then we had the Nehruvian policy come in. And before that, what drew interest to the area is the beginning of the book, a little known incident in 1953, where 49, CRPF Jawans and their porters, including officers whom my father knew as a young, recruit. So they were all killed in an ambush. Now, why, wherefore, what happened? And then this is becoming a new mythology, you might say, in Arunachal today, where young people never knew about these things because Arunachal is so many different tribes, So this was a way of putting it together, bringing all the districts together. And now they are doing illustrations, illustrations of illustrious forefathers, martyrs and heroes. So history is very strange. It keeps changing narrative, but this was researched also with some recorded dates, historical dates and incidents.
Thank you. So this is actually a question to both of y'all. Both of you in different ways write about patriarchal norms. It is not just within the family, it is within the community, the larger country as a whole. So as women writers, have you faced any issues in the publishing industry or is it's more, is the publishing industry more gender agnostic than that?
No. Publishing is only before I had problem. Now we can get more open for women writers. When I was started my career, novel and poems, without knowing my family not support, never support to my writings. I anonymously write my poetry, published my poetry collection without telling my family. My publisher, they are that time very very less publications was there. Now everything is open. That time my publisher, they are getting my poetry collection, poetry, and they published my, I'm new, no, publishing my poetry. It was very successful poetry collection. After my novel published, this the very complicated, because what we are writing, that is most important things, you know. When my novel, that time is not digital, everything is அதாவது அந்த அச்சு கோர்ப்பாங்களே ப்ரெஸ், தே ஆர் அச்சு கோர்க்கிறது, அந்த அது எப்படி சொல்கிறேன்னு தெரியல. ப்ரெஸ் டிஃப்ரெண்ட். தட் டைம் தே ரெட் மை ஸ்டோரி, that they refused to publish. The publisher is ready to publish, but the publishing, the press is not ready to publish. This story is different. They are afraid about that. Now the open, everything is open. But now this, but when every we are facing some problem, writers facing some problems. This novel I spoke about women problems. Now this novel, recent days, one love is only love. We are morning that Nobel Prize winner, he spoke about the session. He said, love only the important one. We have to love each other and everything. But this novel I wrote about the present issue in this community. When somebody is love each another one person, the caste and religion always in front of them. Recent days in the love is calling love jihad. This issue is recent days, we are saying this is love jihad, but we know love is only love. We don't have any other thought about that. I wanted to write this novel. This novel is spoke about the love only. Three generation love, three generation, what happened to the love. Different community people, they are love each other. What kind of problems they faced other 200 years before, 50 years before, still what happened. Then I wrote this novel. Yes, we have to face some issues, the publishing houses, from the people only.
I'll just slightly reframe the question also, because we do know that most of the books that come out today are urban centric, very, a particular kind of audience. It's an upper caste, rather Delhi, Bombay. And you are both away from the mainstream in that sense. It is not, it's not the traditional publishing. So how easy or difficult is it for you as a woman writer from the Northeast to publish? Is it easy? Is it?
Oh, Northeast, okay. I think especially today there are so many, young writers coming up, all the states across the Northeast region. There's a lot of self-publication also, self-publishing, which I think is actually quite a good thing. You can get your book out and you have the pleasure of seeing it in print. Earlier, it was not so easy, but that was our own, we were sort of hesitant until Katha books came. They wanted Northeast folklore translations. Then you had Penguin pitching in. And then a whole lot of writers, publishing houses became very interested in Northeast literature, as a kind of different category almost. But the problem is with the marketing and distribution. Once they have the stories, then, you know, it's just out there, and post-publication, you don't know what's going on, whether it's being republished, whether there are new editions, or in some cases, even illustrations, which I hadn't seen with the Katha children's stories books, and they came out rather beautiful also. So things like that, because we are not in the urban centers, I feel that may be one of the drawbacks, you know, where you can't actually push for your books in bookstores, or if you have won an award, it's not stamped on the book immediately like it would be with some other author from the metropolis, something like that, things like that. But otherwise, it's been, you know, Zuban has been publishing quite a lot from the Northeast region. In fact, they've just covered the whole, all the states, you know, with their kind of particular short story collections. Yeah.
Thank you. Wait, I thought of something and it just slipped. I'm sorry. Oh, it will come back when it's, yeah, right. So you were talking about, I'm sorry, just a mind fog moment. You were talking about once a book is published, it's not really in your hands. And in fact, Salma, it's one step worse for you in a way because your books are translated. And there have been different people who've been translating, and there's been one person who's translated a lot of your poetry. Meera Kandaswamy did your previous book. This is Janki Kannan. It's different translators. So how much is your input when they are translating? Are you satisfied with the way it is? I mean, as a reader who cannot read Tamil, I love the way the nuances are captured, especially here she mentions a lot of Arabic Tamil words are still there. But as a writer whose work gets translated, what are your thoughts? Or do you just leave it that?
No, the translation is hard working process. You know, we could not. It's not easy work, but different writers, different translators, they did my novels, short story also one person. Sometimes my publishing houses deciding who have to translate this book. We could not tell any suggestions because these days we could not get more translators from Tamil to English. That is the more important problem. But they have to do something creativity with this book. I hope they are doing their own work, but readers, they can decide. When my friends, some people, they are read Tamil version and English, they'll always criticized about the translation. No, this is not. They are bringing not good like that. But I'm always telling them because we write, we have to sit sometime with the translator. Otherwise, we could not bring at least that novel. No, it's very difficult to work. My work is community and the culture and the food and names and Arabic words and religious customs. Culturally, it is very difficult. It is very difficult. I could accept this. Otherwise, I could not. But we don't have any choice. Whatever they can do, we have to accept that. At least we can give some. Sometimes we can sit and discuss about the issues and problems. Or sometimes they could not understand what I am telling. One of my novel. Poetry collection, I had one issue, no? One poetry, women translator, she translated my poem, finished, my vagina opens. Finished this line is my vagina opens. But that translator, she is a woman, she had a problem with that translation. She finished that, my legs open. She don't want to translate the word, no. Then I was fighting with her. She never accept. Then after that we got translated that same poem with another translator. Sometimes women, I am writing as a woman. Writing about women. Men also translated my work difficult, but we don't have more translators. We have to accept. We don't have any problem. Otherwise, we could not reach the people, no. Without translator, we could not reach our other people. Only my Tamil is more oldest and ancient language. Nobody cannot justice for this language, no. This won't translate.
Even a bad translation is better than no translation, no? I think that's what they say. But if I may add, talking about translation, it can be quite funny also sometimes, because at the Sahitya Academy meeting, I found myself, I was being congratulated left and right, you know. My book, The Black Hill, had won the translation award for Tamil. But I had no idea it was translated. I had to ask Salma here, Salma ma'am, I said, who is the translator? Is he here? You know, I want to say thank you. What is his name? So I spoke to the gentleman in Coimbatore. He said, I have been following this story for the last 2 years. I said, you went to Arunachal? He said, no, I'm in Coimbatore. But I believe he has done, you know, I felt thrilled also, because surprised, but also honored, because Tamil is an ancient language, and I thought somebody is taking the trouble, you know, to follow this story. So now we're in touch. Another thing I have is this introduction of, you know, let's say Northeast literature into curriculums, Delhi University. Now, if they're just thrown in for purposes of integration with no context, rhyme, or reason, the poor students, you know, I get so many calls from Gujarat, Mumbai, and I know it's going to be small towns and the river. Can you explain the structure? I said, I can't explain, you know, just interpret it your way. But I think being taught is also, you know, the key factor here, or what the teacher might be saying, because I can understand it'll be very confusing for them without the references to the mythology and, you know, a little bit more exposure. So I feel a bit sorry about those things, but I think if I say interpret it your way, you know how small towns are, and you know how big cities, or whichever place you come from, and that relationship, okay.
Thank you. So I think let's open it up for questions, because I'm sure there will be questions others have, and I don't want to hog the mic. If there are no questions, of course, I do have a few more, but I wish I would leave it to you. And if it is to one specific author, if you could specify who it is to, then it'll...
Can I just speak sitting? Yeah. Okay, this question is for Mamang. So you, related to your book, you just said that history is very strange. So by that, do you mean that history is contested in the present age? And if so, when history seems incomplete, do you think literature or storytelling can fill these gaps more truthfully? Regarding history, like we have seen many authors, including you, like trying to incorporate history into fiction. So that is already out there. But do you think that literature or storytelling can fill in these gaps more truthfully?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I do think, especially when I was writing The Black Hill, because it's the story of a French priest who really came to what was then Arunachal territory, and then he got killed there. And the man who allegedly killed him, we don't know for sure, was hung by British authorities. So I could imagine the feeling of that man being imprisoned in a Dibrugarh jail. I went to look at the jail. I was looking for records. So then you think, you can't just write anything about history, to fill in the gaps. You have to have some kind of or work towards an authenticity. So I began to feel that history was a kind of meeting place. I wanted to bring this story again, but then I was looking at it from my point of view, what might have happened or what I imagined. So I had to bring in some kind of narrative, techniques and threads to make it like my voice is not there, it's not me, it's what might have happened. It could be imagined by anyone. It's not, this is what happened, like filling in the blank, blank, that kind of thing. So it's always open, but it is a meeting place, I feel, history, any history. It's, you're looking at the past, you're looking behind, you're revisiting the past, let's say, and then you're reimagining it and writing about it. But there has to be some measure of responsibility also, because you can just take history and recreate it into all kinds of, narrative which is unverified and which may be detrimental to society if it's not done responsibly and with love. You must have love for that subject. Why do you want to tell this story again? In fact, in one of our literature festivals, a young lady came up and she said, could you sign this? And she was a great-great-granddaughter of the Mishmi chief who was killed in the Black Hill. So that way history is always also a living thing. Someone somewhere knows the truth. You can't just play around with it, for fiction. But for purposes of history, like Arunachal history, we don't have anything written except by research department and people who visited from outside. So something from the inside. I covered the insurgency period as a journalist very, very closely, Tirap, Changlang. So that I felt was necessary. You were asking about audience. You don't know. You're not writing specifically for anyone, but it's something you want to express, to record, because you witnessed or you know some facts, and that's why it's presented. Through fiction, it works better than, data and research and a long essay, that kind of thing. That is the history, because the records are very vague. In the British records of that period, 1850, in the Kolkata archives and, Mackenzie and history of the Northeast frontier, all British records, it just says that a French priest and his assistant were killed by Mishmi. And they got the name of the person wrong also. He's spelled in different ways, So they didn't mention which tribe, what happened. It could have been a misunderstanding. It could have been, in those days, people were so afraid of any strangers coming in. It could have been the Tibetan authorities from the other side who were saying, push all these people back, because the priest was trying to reach Tibet, actually. And the body has never been recovered yet. No.
Hi, my question is for Salma ma'am. You spoke a little bit about the forces that was not very welcoming of your writing, but are there any interesting patterns in who is more accepting of the kind of audiences that is more accepting of your writing? Do you see like a generational thing? Are Gen Z more open-minded, or urban versus rural populations more open-minded? Are there any interesting patterns over there?
is, we always have one complaint on the youngsters. They are not ready to read. They don't have interest on the literature. This is always some kind of myth is surrounding on us. But really, these times, that is, I could not accept that. Every day I am going to attend so many literature festivals and book fairs. I could see a lot of youngsters. They are coming and purchasing the books. They are very much interested on about the literature. Yes, fundamentalist they could not accept, but they also read my book. After read the book, they can criticize me, no? They can scold me. They are also reading my book. That negative, when they are doing something negative, all the people, they are purchasing the book, it's hard sale, it will happen. Always it's happening. That's why it's popularity, no? Publicity and popularity is same time happen, no? Yes, youngsters also, and after the translation of my novels, so many international readers and internationally translated in many languages. Somebody called in Maharashtra, my novel translated and published in Marathi. Yesterday only he sent a long message. How much he is youngster, connected with that story, how he was very happy about that, read the novel. You know, now these days the people are very much in, after Kindle we can get everything, no? The people they can carry, they can purchase anything. They are supporting the literature. We can't any complaint, no? Make any complaint on them.
Uh, my question was to Salma ma'am, and it was initially actually triggered off because of something that Mamang ma'am actually said about academics. And my question was that, you know, in an interview you've spoken about how, and even today you spoke about how poetry is not as popularly read as a novel would be. Do you think academics can play a big role in shifting that idea about poetry reading? Because especially in Tamil literature, we come from a history of poetry being in the forefront, and yet today we have you, a foremost poet, telling us that poetry is not that popularly read. So how open are you for it, for your poems, to become part of a syllabus and to be discussed and criticized? And what do you think what role do you think that will play?
My first poetry collection, it was very popular, and the second book also. But when the book is translated other language, as a poet, I am very happy when my own language people are purchasing and they are reading, they are admiring. But when somebody wanted to translate from Tamil to English, they wanted novels only, not poetry collections. This is the truth. All my novels translated in so many international languages, Galician and Germany, and recently Armenian language also. But the people, they are wanted know about the other people stories. Stories, in our bedtime, we are telling the story to our children, no? Stories people are interesting. That's why novel is getting more offered when all the translation is happening. But poetry collection is only less marketing. But in our own people, they can. Recently, my poetry collection published in English. Only recently. Only selected poems, 50 poems, we published in English. Recently happened. This story is always more powerful. People are wanted, right? Poetry is powerful, but they wanted read novels and stories. That is maybe.
Do you think it is taught in schools and in colleges? Even in Tamil itself, your poems, if they could be taught in schools and colleges, whether that will play a role in
You know that schools, they don't have any opportunity to literature. They are not teaching literature. Colleges, they have only 2 poems. only 2 poems for a writer's poem, and they add one story, small story. Just literature student for the literature students. But we have to teach so many things, the literature and poetry. This is the habit, no? Otherwise, we have to, people have to interest to read poetry or novels. This is both time will happen, no? They have readers also interesting and about the literature, and schools and colleges they have to teach, but not much happen.
Sorry. So this semi-question, semi-comment is for Mamang Dai ma'am. So I love the way you write, and I find it so poetic. I always introduce, if anyone asks for gateway to Northeast Indian writing, I always introduce your work as the work. And I also love the way how Pensam, for example, escapes conventional sort of genre of or the form of the novel, the way you wove it together. But especially regarding Black Hill, for example, the Black Hill, you mentioned that you felt that maybe you felt sorry for the lack of background text for Northeast novels or writings, for that matter. At the same time, I thought one way of looking at it is it also is a sort of, it instills or inspires interest in history, fiction as a way of inspiring interest in history, because that was what sort of made me look at Kajin Shah, at Francis, Father Crick. One question would be regarding the lack of documentation, as you suggested, not just in fiction, but let's say in history as well. Do you have, although this is going beyond fiction, since you work there, do you have suggestions for, let's say, for someone who is more interested in the area, or let's say the history of Arunachal Pradesh? Like you said, it is more sort of reliant on oral history. But what about, how do we then introduce the mainstream history then?
Thank you very much. I have always dreamt about peace zones. I would like to have a tri-junction connection with China, with Myanmar. I think Japan should also collaborate with World War II history in the region, in Manipur, in Kohima. So basically what we need is to open up all our borders for scientific and literary meetings. Even for ecology, if we are talking about climate change, this whole higher Himalayan, Southeast Asia region, we should be more interconnected because we have shared histories also and shared geographies. You talk about the Stillwell Road now, which is quite popular. It runs from, Assam through Arunachal, right up to Kunming in Yunnan province. So these are all very big projects that could be taken up by governments from all sides, and create these zones of meeting, history as a meeting place, culture, people, and the present also meeting the past, and the present meeting the present for the future, maybe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Sonu from EFL University. Salma ma'am said Muslims are facing a lot of discrimination and difficulties in today's India. I think it's true. But since you are member of parliament and writer, I want to ask you, what could be the reason for this increasing discrimination towards Muslim? And also, there is 0 member of parliament in Lok Sabha from ruling party. So how could we solve this? This is my question.
People finish BJP, this country will save. Not only Muslims, everybody. Okay, BJP should be finish this from this country. We have to work on that. Otherwise, we could not no one couldn't save this country. Everything happening in Manipur, what happened? Manipur, what happened? In so many places, every schemes are Gandhi killed by someone from the RSS. Now, recently, they are killing the Narega scheme. The Gandhi name is now removed. Everything they are not only against Muslims, against minorities. In Christian, they could not celebrate Christmas in the Northeast. This country is destroying slowly. People now hate is everywhere, spreading hate, and we have to save. Our people, we have to work on that, spread the love against the BJP.
Thank you for this wonderful session. Thank you for being an excellent audience. The topic of the session was the ties that bind us. And I think both your books, all your work reminds us of the ties that bind us. We are all humans. All we need is compassion, understanding, and just understanding where the other person is. And most of our problems stem from the fact that we don't want to look at the other. And I think that is what literature reminds us. That is what both your work reminds us. And thank you very much.
Youngsters, you can get our novels, support us.